All 6 stories were over. It seemed that even if we continued waiting, the 7th person wouldn't appear. Still, I couldn't help but expect that something would happen. That maybe the 7th person might appear. Hey, there's no point in waiting around any longer, is there? It's late. We should go home. Fukuzawa-san suggested, perhaps because everyone else was so quiet. That's true. That sounds good. We have something very important to talk about now, after all. Kazuma-san. He looked at me and grinned, that smile full of hidden meaning. No way. Did he remember what we talked about earlier? About us being aliens and taking over the Earth together. He seemed a little strange, so I didn't want to involve myself too closely with him. I did my best not to look at him. Yeah, let's bring this meeting to an end. Well then, everyone. Kazuma-san strongly gripped my hand as I went to stand up. He was incredibly strong. I couldn't move. When on earth did he move to be beside me? All right, you can all go home now. Leave the rest to us. Kazuma-san prompted them with a smile. At this rate, everyone would leave us. No. I sensed something awful was going to happen and I didn't like it. Come on, Emmy. What should you do? Don't let them leave. Please, don't go. Please, don't leave us alone. I screamed. I wanted to avoid being alone with Kazuma-san, no matter the cost. That was the one thing I didn't want. Oi, Kurata. If you've been friends with Kazuma all this time, you should have just said so right from the start. It's not like we want to get in the way, so see ya. Shindo-san. He had the wrong idea about us. And he had a vulgar grin on his face. You're wrong. It's not like that. Shindo-san, this is the first time I've ever met Kazuma-san. Please, don't go. Don't hold back on my account. We'll get out of your hair right away. Come on, guys, let's go. Everyone grinned. Then they all filed out of the room, one by one. Ah. Hopelessness consumed me. Kazuma-san abruptly let go of my hand once they were all gone. You sure are a good actor. We sure would be in trouble if they found out what we are supposed to do. You're smarter than you look. Well, my comrade, let us begin making arrangements. Kazuma-san smiled happily. Now might be my only chance to escape. But if I failed, who knew what he might do to me? He seemed more dangerous than your regular person. What should I do? Run. I ran for the door. Ah, Emi-chan! I heard Kazuma-san's voice, but this was no time to be paying attention to it. The only thing that was for sure was that I couldn't be alone with him. Once I hit the hall, everything would be fine. Cha! The door suddenly closed. It almost grazed my nose. If it had closed a second later, then it would have smashed me on the head. Emi-chan, it's okay. You were trying to close the door for us, weren't you? Thank you. But it's okay. I closed the door so nobody can hear us now. Kazuma-san said, beaming. Did he have some sort of special powers? That wasn't what I was intending, but Kazumasan interpreted what he'd done as a good thing. At this rate, I was going to be backed into a corner. This body is stifling as well. Ugh, can't wait to go back to normal. Don't you agree, Emi-chan? Kazuma-san looked far into the distance. Eh? Go back to normal? And that convinced me once and for all that Kazuma-san was indeed broken. I probably shouldn't go up against him at this point. It would be best to watch how things played out first. I didn't know what he might do if I forced matters. On that note, I haven't asked you your true name yet. At the very least, please tell me that. Name? My true name? I mean, I only had one name, Kurata Emi. I didn't have any others. Bugger. Kazuma-san stared at me. I had to do something. Ask his name. And what would be your true name, Kazuma-san? I threw the question back at him. Ah, me? Yes, I should offer you my name first before asking yours. My name is... What's yours? I couldn't catch what he said. Was that really a person's name? Kazuma-san might be dangerous, but he would surely understand if I apologized. He just thought he was an alien, when in reality he was just a little weird in the head. When I thought I saw his eyes flash gold before, that was just me seeing things. There was no such thing as aliens. But was that really the truth? I was starting to feel less confident about that. Did I really believe that aliens didn't exist? There's no such thing. No, there was no such thing as aliens. No way at all. I had to get my head back in the game. Kazuma-san just thought he was a Sunbararian, that was all. I really had no idea what was going on in his head. The only option I had left was to run from this dangerous man. Yes, that was all I could do. Kazuma-san strongly grabbed my arm as I tried to run for the door. What's wrong? Are you trying to check if anyone's outside? Don't worry, nobody's out there. If you used your ultrasound, you'd realize that right away. What on earth was he talking about? What should I do? Things were getting worse and worse. By the way, have you been carrying out your duties successfully? Kazuma-san's face suddenly turned serious. My duties? He pressed his face closer to mine, almost close enough to touch. His breath was warm on my ears. But the words coming out of his mouth were... The Earth invasion. Wow. I never once thought I'd meet another comrade here. I'm glad. Oh yeah, it's almost time to send back my periodic report. I have to go home. Shall I request a pickup? Kazuma-san stood by the window, talking to himself. Then he pulled something out of his pocket that looked like a toy emblem and raised it in the air. Communication to headship. Communication to headship. Reporting in for my periodic report. A light flashed briefly outside the window. What looked like lightning lit up the dark sky. Kazuma-san smiled, as though satisfied, when he saw it. Then he started waving the emblem around like doing radio taiso, and performed various strange poses. He really was dangerous. I slowly stood up from my seat. Where are you going? Kazumasan's voice pierced my back. Escape, failure. Just to the toilet. What are you saying? They'll be here soon. You heard my report, didn't you? Ah, yeah. They'll be here soon. What would be here soon? Ah, here they are. Kazumasan suddenly turned his gaze to the door and waved happily. I turned around. Kya? I must have flown about a meter back. That was how surprised I was. A creature with a head like an ammonite stood in the doorway. What on earth was that? Chief, I'm so honored that you yourself came all this way. Kazumasan bowed. What an elaborate prank. This childish mask wouldn't scare me. That was it. He must have conspired with Hino-senpai to do this. The two of them were in cahoots. This had been their ploy all along. How mean. They all got together to have a laugh at my expense. Well, no more. I ripped off the ammonite mask. Quit playing around. I grabbed the ammonite thing standing in the doorway and pulled as hard as I could. But it didn't budge. The thing screamed something incomprehensible, its feelers twitching as a clear liquid like salt water poured out of its mouth before it collapsed to the ground. Then it stopped moving. It wasn't a mask? If it wasn't, then did that mean it was the real deal? Chief! Kazumasan ran over to the ammonite monster and shook it. It's no good. He's dead. He muttered and then glared at me. You deceived me, didn't you? You were sent here by the Earth's defense forces to stop our invasion. I won't hear any different. Seemed you were trying to infiltrate our ranks, but you have failed. Now I will kill you. Kazumasan, help me. I didn't know you were a real alien. And what were the Earth Defense Forces? I had no idea such a thing existed. This wasn't a TV program, right? Inside I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. All I could do was open and close my mouth as I trembled. Kazumasan glared fearsomely at me, edging ever closer. What should I do? I'll have to fight back. All I could do was fight back. Yeah! I ran into Kazumasan as hard as I could. Then I closed my eyes and wildly swung my arms around. Suddenly, Kazumasan let out a horrific screech and fell to the ground. Seemed I'd accidentally yanked one of his feelers. So that was it. The feelers growing around their mouths were the Sunbararians' weak point. They were almost too weak. If these weaklings really thought they could invade the Earth, they had another thing coming. But the crisis had been avoided. I'd come to this meeting just to hear some scary stories that had happened at this school, but at some point, I'd become a hero that saved the Earth from a terrible crisis. But nobody would ever know it. I was alone, solitary hero. Yeah, that was what heroes really were, after all. But I was also somewhat pleased. Thinking about it now, the weird atmosphere in the room must have been the Sunbararians doing all along. I didn't know whether anyone would believe me, but I'd turn this experience into the 7th story for the newspaper. At any rate, I was glad. I was glad. Well then, let's go home, I thought, and as I made my way towards the door... Kya! Instinctively, I hid in the shadows of the room. What was that? What was that? Something was there just now. Was that a group of Sunbararians walking down the hall towards me just now? Was I seeing things? No way. Everything was supposed to go back to normal now. What should I do? What should I do? Check one more time. Yeah, maybe I just saw things wrong. I should check one more time. I peeked into the hall from behind the wall. Ugh! Ah, so it wasn't a dream. They were storming down the hall. Were they coming this way? Oh yeah, they would have known that the chief was here. That was why. Well, bugger. A single thought came to mind. I debated whether I should carry it out, but what else could I do? It wasn't a very good idea, but it would do for now. I tore the ammonite head off Kazumasan's corpse. Something like seawater poured forth from it. Ugh, how gross. I stared at the head. Should I put it on? Put it on. One way or another. Here we go. I pushed my head inside his. It squelched and the insides burst out. How absolutely disgusting. And smelly. But what else did I expect? My life was depending on this. I couldn't see out it very well, but I could just barely see what was going on through the gaps in the feelers. Oh yeah, I should grab that emblem thing Kazumasan had. Immediately after that, the Sunbararians entered the room and yelled something incomprehensible at me. I had no idea what they were saying. What should I do? Quietly point at Kazumasan's dead body. I pointed quietly at Kazumasan's headless body. The Sunbararians continued to scream and checked his body. Then, the dead body of the chief as well. Now! I used the opportunity to run out of the room. I had to get away from there. A white light rushed over my shoulder from behind. It hit the wall in front of me and exploded. A laser gun? Die! This wasn't a science fiction movie. Why was this happening to me? Why were there Sunbararians here? I ran as fast as I could, those thoughts on my mind. Several laser beams flashed by my side. If they hit me, I'd be dead in an instant. I had to get out of the school. The lasers stopped as soon as I reached outside, but I couldn't relax yet, because there were Sunbararians wandering around the schoolyard as well. Had they taken over the school? I waved at them and showed them the emblem. Then I quietly made my way towards the school gate. Yeah, that was good. Just like that. I took a single step outside of the school. Now, run! I ran as fast as I could. Where should I go? Home. All I could think about was going home. I had to run. I ran and ran and ran. Thankfully, nobody looked at me, even as I had that thing on my head, and I safely made it back home. I ran inside and locked the door behind me. Then I went into the kitchen. It was evening, so Mum should have been making dinner. Mum! I called out from behind her. You're late today, aren't you? Your father has overtime as well, so... Mum dropped what she was holding as she turned around. Oh, crap. I completely forgot to take the mask off. Huh? It wouldn't come off. It was stuck. It hurt. Not only could I not take it off, every time I tugged on it, it hurt. Come to think of it, something was strange. At first it smelt bad and felt creepy, but now I'd kinda gotten used to it, like it was my own head. Still, the more I thought about it, the weirder that was. How did my head manage to fit inside of Kazumasan's to begin with? The sizes were completely different. My mother still looked shocked. I pleaded with her. Mum, it's me, Emmy. Then she ran at me. Emmy, you've finally grown up. I'm so happy. Let's all celebrate together. It's been 30 years since we assimilated with the humans, and we've only just started to live life here normally. I'm so happy, she said and hugged me. Wait, what on earth are you saying, Mum? Then she placed her hand on her chin and yanked hard. She had that same ammonite head. I became an adult around the same age as you. I'm so happy. I wonder if I have enough time to make some rice with red beans. I need to call your father at work and have him come home right away, she said with a face that looked exactly the same as the mask on mine. I'm home. My older sister was back. Ah, you've come of age too, huh? It happened to me in junior high. Quick, right? Maybe I was too precocious, she said casually. That wasn't something you should say so casually. Did that mean my family were Sunbararians too? And I couldn't remove Kazumasan's mask because I was one too. Did I happen to become an adult at the very same moment I put his mask on? I was overcome with exhaustion. But thinking about it a little more, maybe this was a happy ending.